What's going on YouTube? Car Craftsman, back again. Another video showing you how I get shit done around the shop. It's kind of like an introduction to buffing. So if you're experienced with buffing, you probably won't learn too much. But if you're new to buffing, you can definitely watch my technique and how I use a buffer to achieve my best results. Anyway, I'll chime in every once in a while with things that I think are important. And thanks for watching. You're going to see me come up to this corner here and jog the buffer. You don't want to go balls out when you're doing a corner like that. That buffer's going to catch on one of them edges and either tear the paint right off of it or break your wrist or shatter a windshield. Believe me, this buffer is very powerful and you don't want to do the wrong thing with it. It's also spinning at about 18,000 RPM. It's what setting I like to use when I'm just doing an initial cut. But yeah, once you come up to them corners, you really want to strategically come to them. You can see here for the flattest spots, I'm keeping the buffer obviously as flat as possible. But when I come up to these edges, I'm tilting it just a tiny bit. Now everybody says to use it flat, but the truth is you have to tilt it a little bit each way to make the buffer move the way you want it to. So the rotation of the buffer gives you a cut rotation and it gives you a buff rotation. When you're working against the rotation, you're cutting. When you're working with the rotation, you're buffing. That's a pretty important thing to know, because if you keep cutting, you're going to have swirl marks indefinitely. Okay, so you see me switch from that wool pad to this foam pad. The wool pad is for cutting and using a cutting compound. Foam pads used for buffing and using a buffing compound. You're always going to use them in tandem and in sequence. Very important to keep it moving across the surface. The compound will give you lubrication, but if you stay in one spot too long, you're going to create a hot spot and that can burn the paint. Later on in the video, I actually give a demonstration of this where I turn up the buffer and try to burn. And you can see that if you stick around. Cutting compound and the wool pad are very aggressive for taking out scratches. The foam pads are normally used for buffing and are really easy to control. You're always strategically moving and always moving. You want to look ahead to where your next pass is going to be. Do 50% overlaps and make sure when you're coming to these edges that you're not just going all out and not paying attention, because you will rip stuff up, I'm telling you. I always apply my compound straight to the pad. It helps prevent sling. Personal preference, you can do it any way you want. One thing I'm not doing in the video, kind of to say, is cord awareness. You need to be aware of where your cord is, and not only because it has dirt all over it and could scratch what you just got done buffing, but if you're not paying attention and that buffer head hits your cord, I've seen people have massive bruises just from that. Any loose clothing, your headphones, anything like that, you need to be very aware of. Now I left the annoying buffer sound in there so you could hear when I'm coming up to these corners and really slowing down. You still have to polish those corners, but you can't go fast or you're going to mess stuff up. And even though I'm using a crappy action camera, you could see how much pressure I'm putting on that trunk lid by the deflection of the reflection you see in the paint there. You have to put moderate pressure on there. You want that surface to heat up, just not too much. Using both the cutting and buffing compounds in both pads, this panel took about 8 to 10 minutes. You want to wipe off any of your residue using a spray detailer. Swag. You don't need a lot. One pump, get all your crap off. Make sure you get the jams. This stuff hardens like concrete and you won't get it off if it dries. Here's a final example I wanted to give you. My 93 Accord. It's a before and after shot. You'll see more here in a second. This paint is really, it's got a lot of dead pigment on the top. Doesn't want to shine too good. And then right here I wanted to show you what could be achieved as an example. As soon as I focus, you see them scratches. Yep, you can get them out. Now you can see my thumbnail doesn't hang up on it, so it's not that serious. If your thumbnail hangs up on it, it's pretty serious. This is the results after. You can see how much dead pigment was on there. Just needed to be buffed off. Blah, 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 blah. And then them scratches are gone. Look at that. Looking pretty sexy. Not really. I plan on painting it anyway. Oh, I'm sure I'm going to hear about this in the comments. Oh, look at Garth Kratzman. He's got horrible tattoos and a tramp stamp. He's so skinny. Get the fuck out of here. Like I give a fuck what you think. Just watch the video. Now, I sped this up because you've already seen it done. Just giving you another example. Safety first. Kind of screwed myself just giving myself a small area to do. It's kind of hard, but kept it moving. Now, one of the things I want you to listen for is a bad sound when you're buffing. That grinding sound right there. When you hear that, you're really asking for it, so you don't want to hear that noise very hard or for very long. Switch the pad up, get your buff on. My star boy. Massage that in. Do what? Alright, this is where I turn up. Turned it all the way up to 3,300 RPM, which is hilarious, and you can hear it rip. Now, surprisingly, I really didn't get any burn marks. I did get one, but I was moving real fast, and that's what you gotta do. I took a heat recording there, and my highest I got to was 250. And right here you could see what a burn looks like. That small smudge in the clear coat there, that'll never come out. That's why you got to keep it moving, know what RPM to use, and how to properly use your buffer.